Hey everyone, Rob here, and I got some updates on what's going on here in Iceland, the status of the Blue Lagoon, the status of the air quality, and more importantly, new assessment maps of the danger of the area and a heightened alert with news coming out that there could be a second eruption while this eruption is ongoing. But let's go to the Blue Lagoon first. Once again, they are closing, today. So they are going to open tomorrow morning, and they're closing because of the gas pollution that affects the area. Now, again, there's a volcanic eruption very close to the Blue Lagoon, and they are constantly opening and closing. And so they had closed today. And if we take a look at the air quality in the Blue Lagoon area, if we go to the graph, we can see very clearly that there is a spike in the sulfur dioxide in this area, which is why they had to close because of this area. So that's what we're looking at here. If we, take a look over the past couple of weeks and we do a little search, we should be able to take a look at the graph over a longer period of time, which we cannot, but you can see here some of the information from that area. So this is loftguide.is. You can take a look at the air quality if you would like. But once again, Blue Lagoon opening and closing, and they're saying that they should be opening Saturday morning, April 20th, which is tomorrow. So if you have it booked for tomorrow, that should be okay. But on to the main event is an image here from the Meteorological Office of Iceland, and we're going to be going through a lot of information, so buckle up. Big news is continued land rise, even though the eruption is ongoing, is increasing the likelihood of another magma flow or eruption, even though this one is still ongoing. Now, this is the longest eruption since the first one at Fagersfeld, so that's also something to know. There have been eruptions or some sort of event since November. Every month there's been something going on, and the land rise is continuing at a steady pace. Now, since April 5th, only one crater has been there, and the lava flow from it has remained fairly constant, just over 3 meters cubed per second. And there's still, of course, a risk of gas pollution. I mean, we see the Blue Lagoon is now closed for I don't even know how many times, but they are opening and closing all the time. I feel bad for the people that are working there, and, well, for the people who get kicked out. If you're staying at a hotel there, you don't expect to get kicked out, and hopefully they're reimbursing them. But the government is advising people in the area to always monitor the air quality. And you saw some of the sites where you can do that. Now, if the accumulation of magma under Svartsengi, which is this area that we're looking at, and the power plant in the Blue Lagoon is towards the left of the screen, if that continues at a similar rate, the probability of another magma flow increases in the coming days or weeks, even though this eruption is still ongoing. Now, after the fourth eruption began on March 16th, that's kind of crazy that you say the fourth eruption, but there it is, March 16th, the land rise slowed down significantly for a while, and frankly, it's saying it's almost stopped. It indicated that there was a balance between the inflow of magma into the magma chamber that was under, or is under Svartsengi, and to the surface in the Sundhnúks crater series. Now, if we take a look at some of these maps here, we'll come back to some of those, but this is what they were looking at before. We could see here the magma come this red flow up here, go into this chamber, and then straight up into Sundhnúks. And you can see Svartsengi and the Blue Lagoon and everything is kind of like under this area here where the magma is. Now, this is what has been going on, and this is what they thought they were expecting, and it has now turned into this, where the magma flow is quite strong. It is building the pressure under Svartsengi, and again, the land rise is going there. So you can see the difference between the two is a steady flow going in and then coming out, but now, of course, it is slowing down on the sort of exit on the current eruption, and therefore building up the pressure and the land rise again under Svartsengi. Now, approximately as much of the magma is flowing into the surface as is accumulating. So at the beginning of April, it was sort of equal as I was showing, but now it has decreased coming out, and it's basically going in. And as I said, the uncertainty is now rising because of all of this possible development. Now, the uncertainty about the development of earthquakes in the coming days or weeks, I mean, those are all things that we can expect coming up. There have been a Well, there was an earthquake series that was near Fagrasfeld, sort of towards the Cleverfot area, and a lot of people thought maybe that was going to be another eruption, but they're saying that's just natural movements of the Earth that caused that. Now, there have been talks of an increased probability of a magma flow and even subsequent eruption in connection with all of this that's going on. It's good to remember that a magma flow is a sudden and large flow of magma that flows out of a magma chamber and can end up with magma breaking up to the surface, but it doesn't necessarily mean that. It could go somewhere else. So it doesn't mean that it's going to erupt, up here as Svartsengi, but it could. But it could also go, sideways. Now, after the magma run on March 2nd, which did not end with an eruption, there was a change in the activity that had been fairly stable since December. If the magma accumulation continues at a similar rate, the probability of another magma flow increases in the coming days or weeks, even though the eruption is still ongoing. And that's, again, because the inflow into this chamber is much greater than what's coming out of the eruption. Getting magma flow out of the magma chamber in Svartsengi together with the current eruption is a scenario that has not been seen before. Therefore, more uncertainty about the development of earthquakes in the days or weeks, and all of this is coming out now. Now, there's a likely sequence of events if a magma flow occurs at the same time as the current eruption. This is all coming out, again, from the meteorological office. Now, they say magma flows, number one, magma flows from the magma chamber under Svartsengi into the Sundsnooks crater series, just like the last 6 times. It's just same old, same old. The other options are, as a result of the magma flow, new fissures may open up in the area between Stora Skogfell and Hagafell, and or existing vents may expand with a sudden increase in the lava flow, and it can happen with little or no notice, as we've seen time and time again. And if we look at some of these here, this is an assessment map, but the area that they're talking about is, of course, Hagafell is right here, and Stora Skogafell is towards the top here. So it's sort of this purple area that they're talking about. I'm going to leave this up right there. If magma flow ends with new fissures opening up elsewhere in the magma tunnel that formed on November 10th, a much longer notice period can be expected. Most likely intense micro-seismic activity, deformation, pressure changes, etc. So that would be something that we don't need to sort of panic about. They're saying that you get a little bit more notice on that. It's also possible there will be no magma flow, but the flow in the current eruption stops decreasing and begins to increase steadily with a new balance between the inflow of magma from below in the chamber and the outflow into the surface, and to have that balance. So I was saying that could also happen. And if magma flow ends with new fissures opening somewhere other than in the area between Stora Skogfell and Hagafell, which is again the purple area, such a scenario would be very likely be accompanied by high seismic activity and deformation, with considerably more advanced notice than previous volcanic eruptions. And basically what that's saying is, if the Blue Lagoon is at risk, then you'll get a little bit more notice than 20 minutes. Essentially that's what they're saying. In light of the uncertainty caused by the increased pressure in the magma chamber under Svartsengi, the Meteorological Agency has raised the risk due to the eruption in areas 1, 4, and 7, which you can see here. This is Sveiði, so that's area 1. Number 4 is in Grindavik, and then 7 is down here below that. So those went from small, sort of considerable ones to a step up. However, total risk in the affected areas does not change really because of all of this, the color. Still highest danger in the purple and the red beside it. And this red dot is basically where the eruption is currently occurring. If we look at, there's a lot of stuff going on here. We see all of this purple, lighter purple. These are all areas from previous eruptions in this series. And the one that's more colorful with the reds and all that, that's what's currently ongoing. And you can see, this is from the 15th of April. It's mostly concentrated to this area right here. A little bit far from the Blue Lagoon. But of course, if you're at the Blue Lagoon, you can still probably see it because, it's an eruption. So if you do go there, that's why, again, they have to close down so often, because this air pollution is basically just going right beside the Blue Lagoon. Now, speaking of the land rise, I love this chart. So whoever's in the office is putting this together, you're doing a great job. This makes a lot of sense. I know it's in Icelandic, so I'm just going to take you through it. Each of these lines represents a series of events. And so we can see here some dates at the top, according to the lines. And these dates are day, month, and year. And so you can see here, purple is the earliest one. And that's the one that really kickstarted everything that's going on right now. And that was on the 9th of November. We can see here this purple one here with a little box. Now the box indicates that it was sort of an earthquake series or magma movement, not an eruption. The stars indicate eruptions, and this is just, it's kind of crazy to look back at how many events and how many eruptions have occurred in this one area in such a short period of time. You know, we're talking just a couple of months. But where we are now is this bottom red one. So again, this is the land rise and the pressure that's building underneath. It hit a certain point and erupted. And we can see the previous one was this star right here. So it didn't take too much land rise in order to get to where we are. And where we are now is above that. And that's really not a good thing. You can see that there was some stabilization. It didn't really increase quite so fast, but you can see it's kind of building back up at the same speed that it had been before, although some of the previous ones were a little bit more intense than it was, and it was previously. And again, it's all because of the inflow resulting in land rise, and the outflow into the eruption is not, it's just not as much. We have more graphs here. But of course, the big news is increased preparedness. Now we have the Public Safety Department of the National Police. The person, sort of senior police officer of that department, Vedur.is, he has talked to the news agency Ambient and said he has increased their preparedness and added personnel as the accumulation of magma under Svartsengi is approaching this lower limit, which is around 8 cubic kilometers. And so something can happen next week, they're saying. Due to the uncertainty, everyone's sort of eyes on the prize, if you will, more today than they have been before. They're doubling the shifts, and if something happens, they're going to know from experience that the notice is not going to be, probably not be that much. Now, when he was asked, he says that Grindavik and Svartsengi are being, evacuated and will really attract news in the area if something big happens, and also points out to the areas now very dangerous. And that the advice to everyone is to stay away from these areas. And I'm not sure if he's recommending all of the areas, but I would say that if he's recommending not to go to Grindavik, which is this bottom orange color, my guess is the recommendation would also be to avoid the Blue Lagoon, which is in the same danger assessment color. He says, do not go hiking anywhere near there. I know some people are still going to watch the eruption, but the wisest thing is just kind of stay away, see it from a distance, and tune into the news on YouTube, such as what you're doing right now, which is always fantastic. So there you have it. That's all the news. Again, a lot going on. Thanks to the Meteorological Office for constantly putting updates on this stuff. I know it's their job to do it, but they really are doing a great job of keeping people informed. And if you're going to the Blue Lagoon, stay safe, check the air quality, and follow the advice of the police and civil protection, and just don't go to the areas that are marked as dangerous. So until next time, thank you so much for watching.